Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Tuesday, August the 25th. We just got 2 games today, which kind of sucks. We're not going to have any more 4-game slates. The Pacers got beat by the Heat on Monday night, so that eliminated them from the playoffs, and they were expected to play, or they were going to play on Wednesday, but now that game, or that series is over. So we're not going to have 4 games Wednesday, just 3 games. And then obviously, the Raptors have eliminated the Nets. The Celtics eliminated the Sixers. So that's 2 series, gone as well from round 1, which kind of sucks, man. We're only going to have 2 3-game slates the rest of the way. Might even have some days where we only have 1 game. But it is what it is. When round 2 starts of the playoffs, I'm pretty sure we'll have probably 2-game slates every day. I'm not sure if the sites are going to do, I don't know how the NBA is going to schedule the games in round 2. I'm pretty sure there's going to be 2 games a day, 2 games this day, and then the other 2 games will be played the next day. So I would imagine, the sites are going to do 2-game slates, but maybe, they do 4-game slates and have them or include both days. We'll just have to wait and see, but pretty sure we're only going to have 2 and 3-game slates moving forward, which, like I said, does suck, but still big tournaments out there. There's still edges to be had on these short slates. You can definitely roster guys that people might overlook. There's news that we're waiting on this slate with Porzingis questionable, so there's definitely opportunity to make some money here if he gets announced out, late in the day, maybe like 30 minutes before the game starts. You could definitely get an edge there. Go heavy on that, Dallas value that people might not get to because the Porzingis news comes out late. So we'll be sure to touch on everything. I'll definitely talk about value guys that I normally wouldn't talk about on a 2-game slate. Your Landry Shamet's, your Reggie Jacksons, your Monte Morris. These are guys that become viable on 2-game slates, and we'll definitely talk about them. Your Seth Curry's. Torrey Craig went back to the bench, but he could be viable on a 2-game slate. So we'll break it all down position by position like we always do. Just before we do get started, guys, as always, I would appreciate it if you would hit that like button down below. Make sure you do subscribe as well. I got a ton of content coming out right now. I am uploading NBA videos every single day to this channel. I have, quit making MLB videos. I don't plan on just completely writing off MLB. I'm still playing MLB every day. I'm still posting MLB content on Patreon. Just for now, I'm going to pause the MLB videos. Maybe I will bring them back, later on. Maybe when, the NBA slates start cutting down. We only have like 2 or 3 game slates every day for NBA. Then maybe I'll start bringing back some MLB videos then. But for now, just really focusing on NBA. You guys have been killing it with all the support on the NBA videos, getting a ton of likes, a ton of comments, a ton of views. I just can't thank you guys enough for all the support that you've shown on the channel recently. So thank you guys for that. Hit that like button down below. Hit the subscribe button. As always, appreciate that. If you want to get more content from me, I do have stuff available on Patreon. That is linked down below in the description. We did just hit 100 Patreons yesterday, so I will be doing a $100 giveaway for all of my Patreon members. I'll run a contest. I'm going to do it for Wednesday's slate because we will have 3 games on Wednesday. I figured that would be the best time to do it, to do the contest rather than on a 2-game slate. So on Wednesday, I will be doing a $100 free roll contest on Draftkings. It'll be available for all Patreon members. It'll be a winner-take-all. So if you win first place in that tournament, I'll PayPal you $100. This is my way to give back to those that support my content on Patreon, that really kind of go the extra mile. I still greatly appreciate everyone who watches my videos, but obviously supporting the content on Patreon, you're really taking the next step. So appreciate all the support, guys. Let's go ahead and take a look at this slate. Talked for a while, but let's go ahead and break down this slate. So we'll start off at point guard. Luka Doncic, most expensive point guard at $11K and most expensive player overall on the slate. So I think Luka is a fantastic play today. I'm not really going out on a limb here. It's a 2-game slate. Obviously, Luka is a great play on a 2-game slate. I think this is a 2-game slate where you actually do have some viable cheap options like 4K and below that we will talk about. So you can definitely fit in Luka. The value you're playing today isn't too bad. There's still cheap guys under 4K that are going to get probably 30 minutes, maybe more. I like paying up for Luka here. I'm just going to try and build around Luka. He's coming off an absolutely incredible game last game against the Clippers. In game 4 of their series. They were down, I believe, like 21 points in that game, the Mavs were. Luka pretty much willed them back to a win. Played 46 minutes in an overtime win. Had an insane game, 92 Draftkings points, 43 points, 17 rebounds, 13 assists, 1 block, 2 steals. Just literally an insane game from Luka. Hit the game-winning shot, a step-back 3. Like, he just played so well there. I don't expect him to slow down here. I mean, Luka's just going to do everything. Even if Porzingis plays, Luka's just going to do all the heavy lifting. Still a guy that has an incredibly high usage rate, even with Porzingis on the floor. Still averages about 1.6, 1.7 fantasy points per minute on the season. I know I haven't been playing Luka much, throughout this series, but today's a totally different scenario. We don't have 4 games today, just a 2-game slate, so I'm going to be trying to build around Luka. He's my favorite stud on the slate. I love that you can play him at small forward on Draftkings. I think that does make him very appealing because there actually is some guard value that we'll talk about in a second that I like. But I definitely like Luka on Yahoo as well. He's $56. He's also the most expensive player over there. But Yahoo's pricing, it's pretty soft. You can easily build around Luka if you want to do that. And one of the reasons, I do like paying up for Luka is because a lot of these mid-range guys, got priced up quite a bit. Donovan Mitchell's all the way up to $9,700. Like Jamal Murray's all the way up to $8K. I know both these two guys are coming off great games, but they really saw their price, see a huge spike. Whereas Luka, he was 10.8 last slate, only got bumped up to $200 to $11K. Whereas Jamal Murray, last slate he was $6,800. He got priced up $1,200. He's $8K today. Donovan Mitchell, I already thought he was a bit overpriced, and now they bumped his price up to $9,700. I know he dropped 66 DraftKings points last game, but I probably won't be chasing that on this slate. If I'm going to pay up for a point guard, it's definitely going to be Luka. Sure, you could go to Mitchell, you could go to Murray on a 2-gamer, but I think these guys are both a bit overpriced. You need both of them. For Mitchell, you need Mitchell to legit get like 55 to 60 to be a guy you kind of have to have at his price. Jamal Murray, you need him to get close to 50. Both those guys have that upside in them. I just think I'd rather play Luka. Like, Luka, even on a bad game, can get you 50, 55. And, we saw the upside he had last game. 92 DraftKings points. Like, he can legit go out there and put up 70, 80, 90 DK points pretty much any day. So, Luka is the guy I'm looking to build around. Especially if, like, Porzingis gets ruled out. My best guess is Porzingis plays today. But if somehow he isn't able to go, Luka should just absolutely go off. So, he's the guy I'm building around. And then you have like Mike Conley, who I actually do like quite a bit. Conley did see his price come up on DraftKings. He was $6,300 last slate. He's up to $6,700 today. But he's been really good so far. Only played 25 minutes in his first game back, but that was mainly due to a blowout. He still did get some run in the fourth quarter. They got him a few minutes in the fourth quarter. They let him play just to get, some conditioning in. He hadn't played in a while. Last game, he got back to his normal minutes, played 32 minutes. 39 DraftKings points. Conley has been very productive. He's a guy that averages about a fantasy point per minute on the season. On DraftKings, his price came up, so I don't think he's like a guy that I'm going to probably have in a lot of my lineups. Like, he's definitely been a core play for me the last 2 slates. Don't know if he's going to be a core play for me on DK, but on Yahoo, he's still pretty cheap over here. You got Mike Conley coming in at $22. He's $1 less than Lou Williams. He's $8 less than Jamal Murray. I definitely like Conley at his Yahoo salary. I think at $22, he looks very appealing. I don't know if you guys heard that, but a alarm just went off outside. But Conley, DK, 6,700. You could definitely play him there, but I think Yahoo's where I have the most interest. And then you got guys like Lou Will Clarkson. Lou Will coming off a big game. Looked great in that game, last time out against Dallas. 34 minutes in overtime. Put up 50 DraftKings points. Just looked like the old Lou Will, was being very aggressive, was getting to the basket, was scoring like he always does, was able to chip in with some peripherals as well, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. I don't mind Lou Will here at 6,400. I don't know if we're going to get 50 DraftKings points again from him, but this is a guy that can go out there and score, 35, 40, even coming off the bench. He's still going to play about 30 minutes. He's fine at 6,400. I think I do prefer Conley, though. If I can get to Conley over Mitchell, or get to Conley over Williams, I think that's the way I want to go. But I don't mind Lou Will. Jordan Clarkson, I don't think I want to go there. Now that Mike Conley's back, it's hard to trust Jordan Clarkson. He's still going to get, probably upper 20s in minutes, 26, 28 minutes off the bench. But his usage isn't going to be as high now that Conley's back, now that Conley's on the floor. The production's also going to come down a bit. For 5,200, you need him to score over 30 DraftKings points to be a good play at his price. Could he do that? Sure he could, but even last game, he shot 69% from the field, 57% from 3, and he still only scored 28 DraftKings points. So, yeah, I'm going to be off Jordan Clarkson. Even on a 2-game slate, I don't think he's someone that I really want to go to. Trey Burke, though, I do have interest in, especially if Porzingis winds up out. I don't know if we're going to get this news before lock. I highly doubt we do. But last game with Porzingis out, they actually decided to start Trey Burke, so they went, with Maxey playing center. Trey Burke did play pretty well, 37 minutes, 37 DraftKings points. I mean, this is a guy that can, produce a fantasy point per minute. He did take a ton of shots, 14 shots, did shoot incredibly well, 71% from the field, 80% from three. You don't expect him to shoot that well again, but, if he's going to play 35, 36 minutes with Porzingis potentially out, then, I would have interest in Trey Burke. The only thing that sucks is if you put Trey Burke in your lineup and then Porzingis winds up playing, I doubt Trey Burke gets more than like 20 minutes. Like last game, 16 minutes, 18 minutes. Like that's probably what he's going to play if Porzingis is in. So it's pretty risky. I guess, let's see. So if you were to plug Burke in, he's 4,500. I guess you could swap. So let's say you have Burke in your util, then you could swap to Zubac. So that's why one reason you always want to play, guys in the later game. You always want to have them in your guard spots and your forward spots and your util spots. So that way you have, the most flexibility when you need to swap. So if you're in your lineup, if you have Burke in the util, if Porzingis winds up playing, then you can just take out Burke, swap to Zubac. You could take out Burke, swap to Kleber, who I like, even if Porzingis plays. So, I guess you could play Burke. Just make sure, keep track of the Porzingis news. If Porzingis winds up in, be ready to swap off of him. But there are other guys to go to under, for value, 4K and below. So, Monte Morris, he moved into the starting lineup last game. They elected to start Monte Morris and Jeremy Grant with Torrey Craig and Michael Porter Jr. going to the bench. He wasn't too productive on a point-per-minute basis, only had 18 DraftKings points, but Monte Morris did play 36 minutes in that game. I think we probably get, 34 to 36 minutes again from Monte Morris. It seems as though that's going to be their starting lineup for today's game, going with Morris playing shooting guard. So I like him a lot here at 4K. We will have to keep an eye on Gary Harris news. Gary Harris is questionable, so that will be something worth monitoring. I think if Gary Harris is able to play, there's a good chance that he takes Monte Morris' spot in the starting lineup. Maybe they bring Harris off the bench, though, especially because he hasn't played since March. There's a good chance he's going to be really limited here. Probably won't play more than 20 minutes if I had to guess. But him coming back would hurt Monte Morris, so we'll need to keep an eye on that. For now, I'm just going to assume that Harris remains out. So I do like Monte Morris quite a bit now that we know, he's going to be locked into big minutes with him starting. Playing alongside Jokic, playing alongside Murray, that's not going to really help his production. But with him starting now, I do feel good about him getting pretty big minutes. And, he's pretty cheap on both sides. He's 4K on DraftKings. He's the minimum salary, just $10 on Yahoo. I do like Monte Morris. Good amount as a value here. Pretty cheap on both sides. On a 2-game slate, these are guys that I'm fine playing, especially if they're not going to be too popular. Now, if Morris, we find out he's going to be really, really popular tomorrow, then maybe you could pivot elsewhere. But for now, I don't think that many people are going to go there. I guess we'll just kind of have to wait and see. I'll definitely be, tuning into some other shows, seeing what people are saying about Morris, whether, he's getting talked up or whether nobody's mentioning him. But regardless, I do have interest in him now that he is starting. Just, we'll have to keep an eye on that Gary Harris news because that actually is pretty big for this slate. But then you have the Dallas guards the Clippers guards that I want to talk about. So I believe Patrick Beverley has already been ruled out for this game. He's unlikely to play. So Patrick Beverley most likely going to be out. So that definitely brings Reggie Jackson and Landry Shamet into play. So Shamet started last game, and he started the game before that. So he started the last two in place of Beverley. Has played 27 and 23 minutes with 26 and 15 DraftKings points. Reggie Jackson coming off the bench, still seeing solid minutes. Only got 17 minutes in Game 3, but last game played really well, got 28 minutes off the bench. I have no idea what Doc Rivers is going to do here in terms of giving minutes to Jackson and Shamet. I think there's going to be a pretty even split between the two. I think if Jackson comes off the bench and plays really well, there's a chance you see him maybe close out the game over Shamet, get more minutes. I think Jackson's the guy that I do prefer just because he's a slightly better point-per-minute player. He's not as scoring dependent as someone like Shamet. Jackson can kind of contribute with rebounds and assists. Last game, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, not great peripherals. But this is a guy that will have the ball in his hands a decent amount, whereas Landry Shamet, not really going to handle the ball much, just going to go out there and just shoot threes. I think I give the slight edge to Jackson over Shamet. I think maybe there's a chance Jackson moves back into the starting lineup because Jackson was starting before with Beverly out, and then they decided to go with Shamet over him. Maybe because Jackson played pretty well last game, they moved Jackson back in. I think both guys are viable. I think both guys are in play as values. But for now, I'm going to go with Jackson at 3,700. I think he's the guy that I like here as a value play. Cheap on DraftKings. If you want to play him on Yahoo, I think he is definitely viable over on Yahoo as well. He's also $10. So you're going to have to make a choice whether you want to go with Morris or Jackson on Yahoo. You could definitely play both. You just might have to get off of somebody like Mike Conley, which if you want to do that, I don't really mind that. You could definitely do that. But yeah, as values, I think Shamet and Jackson both look pretty interesting. I think I do give the slight edge to Reggie Jackson, though. I am assuming that Beverly's not going to play, given, the news came out that he was unlikely to play. So moving on to shooting guard, not much here at the top. I've already talked about Mitchell, Lou Will. Tim Hardaway you got for 5,800. Tim Hardaway's fine here on a 2-game slate. I don't mind him. He gets a little bit of a boost if Porzingis winds up out. If Porzingis plays, I don't think Hardaway is going to be a guy that I really look to build around. If we get news before lock, though, that Porzingis is out, then I will definitely have a lot more interest in Tim Hardaway. Did play pretty well last game with Porzingis out. 35 minutes, 30 DraftKings points. Hardaway's going to give you about 30 DK points most games. At 5,800, you kind of want a little bit more than that. Well, we can't get too picky on a short slate like this, especially on Yahoo where you don't have the positional flexibility like you do on DK. If you want to play Hardaway on Yahoo, I have no problems with that because if you're not paying up for Kawhi, now that MPJ is coming off the bench, you probably don't want to play him. Even though his prices come way down, only saw 23 minutes last game, just 15 minutes the game before that. So he's tough to trust. Hardaway, I do have interest in. Joe Ingles, I think he's still fine to go to, but his numbers and his production is definitely going to take a hit now that Conley's back. Royce O'Neal you have for value, who's fine, but yeah, I don't mind playing Hardaway on Yahoo just because the position. On DK with all the flexibility, you could still play Hardaway. I just don't think he's as good of an option. Joe Ingles is fine, but again, his production definitely takes a hit now that Conley's back, so not going to be like a core play for me. Seth Curry, he should play probably about 30 minutes off the bench. He's played at least 30 minutes in 3 of 4 games in this series. You never know what you're going to get in terms of production from Curry. Did put up 30 DraftKings points in Game 3, 23 DK points to 2 games before that, just 19 last game. If Porzingis winds up out, that is a slight bump up for Curry. That's just more usage to go around. Porzingis is the second highest usage player on this team behind Luka, so I don't mind Curry at 4,600, but his price is up compared to guys like, Monte Morris, who's $600 less, Reggie Jackson, who's almost $1,000 less. Curry is minimum salary on Yahoo, though. He's shooting guard, and he's $10 over here, so if you want to play him on Yahoo, I don't mind that at all, but I think that's probably it for shooting guard. I think the Shamet you can play here, or he's only point guard. So Shamet's point guard, small forward, so never mind on him. But, you can play Curry here. Gary Harris, we'll have to see what happens with him. Like I said, he hasn't played since March. My best guess is that if he is able to play today, he probably sees limited minutes, maybe even comes off the bench. If he winds up starting, though, and can play like 25 minutes, then at 3,900, 25 minutes of Gary Harris for 3,900 would definitely be interesting for a 2-game slate. His production hasn't been the same, especially this season and compared to past seasons. But he's still a guy that can go out there and score, can hit threes, can grab a few rebounds, can pick up a few assists. He would become a pretty solid value if he's not, too hard, if there's not too hard of a limit on him. But I think he's probably going to be limited to 15 to 20 minutes if he does play today. Monte Morris, I'm still going to like if Harris is limited, but if Harris, we'll just have to see. If Harris is able to start and play 25 minutes, then that's probably going to take me off of Monte Morris. But if Harris is going to come off the bench and only play 15, 20 minutes, then I'll probably still have interest in Morris. I assume Torrey Craig, would see his minutes also take a hit with Harris maybe back. But let's go ahead and move on to small forward now. So here at the top of the position, I really like Kawhi as a pay-up option. I think building around Kawhi and Luka is going to be something I try and do today. Paying up for 2 of these studs, you're going to have to find some value. But like I said, I think there's value plays that are viable today. These aren't guys that project insanely well for their salaries, but these are guys that are going to play 30 minutes, maybe more for a guy like Monte Morris. So I'm fine playing, Luka and Kawhi together and then just kind of loading up on these cheap values. I like getting Kawhi in on Yahoo as well, especially because the small forward position is so bad. There's nobody at $10 that you're playing, so I feel like the only playable options at small forward, you literally have 5 guys you can play. Honestly, I'd say you probably have 4 guys because I'm probably not playing Michael Porter Jr., now that he's coming off the bench. It's just hard to trust him right now, so if you're not paying up for Kawhi, you're either playing THJ, Ingles, or Royce O'Neal. I think if I can, I just want to try and pay up for Kawhi here. I mean, he's just been so good in this series, so good in the playoffs. He's always been dominant in the playoffs. Through 4 games in this series, he's put up over 50 DraftKings points in every game, playing huge minutes, going to play close to 40 minutes, if not more, if this game is close. The series is tied 2-2. There's a chance that the Clippers, somehow get upset here. If they lose this game tonight or, Tuesday night, I mean, that's definitely going to be kind of crazy. The Mavs will have a 3-2 lead on the 2 seed here. I know the Clippers were kind of, everyone's, title contenders, title winners. Everyone's, on the Clippers to win the title. They're having some troubles with the Mavs right now. They definitely need Kawhi to go out there and play well. They can't take it easy on these guys right now. They have to win these games. It's not like they're, like the Raptors with the Nets. The Raptors just took care of the Nets like it was nothing. That's not the case here with the Clippers. They're definitely having troubles with the Mavs. The Mavs are playing incredibly well. They need Kawhi out there as much as they can get him. They have to win this game. They don't want to go down 3-2 and give the Mavericks momentum heading into a Game 6. So I expect 40-plus minutes from Kawhi. At $10K, that seems expensive for him, but he's just been on another level in the playoffs. He's been so good compared to Paul George. Paul George just really, really struggled. Not a guy that I have too much interest in today. I definitely want to pay up for Kawhi and love paying up for Luka as well. And you can play these 2 guys together. I mean, there's enough value to where you can definitely make it work. The value you're plugging in, not guys you would normally feel great about, but on a 2-game slate, your Reggie Jacksons, your Monte Morris. I don't mind rostering these guys on a 2-game slate. But then in the mid-range, you got THJ. Marcus Morris, I still like a decent amount. Just getting big minutes right now, at least 32 minutes in every game in this series. Been pretty productive as well. Marcus Morris, not going to be very productive when he's on the floor, especially playing alongside PG, playing alongside Kawhi, 2 very high usage players. But still, he's going to play over 30 minutes, 5,600. There's still some upside for him at that price, so I don't mind Marcus Morris today. DFS, a guy that I really never roster, but on a 2-game slate, he's going to play probably 30, 32, maybe more, probably 32, 34 minutes, around 30 minutes, I should say. He's not a great point per minute player, but getting a guy at 4,800 that's going to play over 30 minutes, definitely puts him on my radar on this short slate. So I don't mind DFS. Same with Royce O'Neal, very similar thing. Royce O'Neal, not a great point per minute player, not a guy that's going to produce at a high rate, but he's going to play big minutes as long as the game stays close. And he's also pretty cheap at 4,500. And then you got Shamet, who I do have interest in, along with Reggie Jackson. Both those guys are going to benefit today with Patrick Beverley unlikely to play. But that's it for small forward. Let's go ahead and move on to power forward now. So looking here, you got Paul Millsap for $5K, who is coming off a big game last game. He did still start there. They started Jeremy Grant at the 3. They kept Paul Millsap at the 4, starting at the 4. And I honestly think that's a pretty big boost for Paul Millsap. Getting Jeremy Grant in the starting lineup, that's a guy that, can't take away minutes from Millsap. One of the reasons Millsap was, losing so many minutes was because Jeremy Grant would just come off the bench and just take all his minutes. Well, now that Jeremy Grant's starting, they can't really, I guess they could give the minutes to MPJ, but it doesn't seem like they want to really play MPJ. They have Mason Plumlee, but Mason Plumlee, mainly going to be a 5. I wouldn't be surprised if we get, around 30 minutes from Paul Millsap again. His price did get jacked up. I mean, he's up to 5K on DraftKings, so he's not a core play for me at this price. But he's definitely on my radar. I've been off him pretty much every game in this series. But I think now that Jeremy Grant's starting, that's actually a pretty good boost for Paul Millsap. That should help his minutes. That should secure his minutes. I like him at 5K. I do have interest in him, even with the price coming up. I think between Millsap, DFS, Grant, O'Neal, I think I'd probably give the edge to Millsap. Jeremy Grant, I do have interest in as well now that he's starting. Very similar to I can't think of his name, Monte Morris. Very similar to Monte Morris, playing alongside Jokic, playing alongside Jamal Murray is not going to be great for Grant's production, but he's going to play big minutes. He started last game and played 36 minutes. Monte Morris started and played 36 minutes as well. Like I said, the production's not going to be too high on a point per minute basis. He's probably going to only average like 0.75, 0.8 fantasy points per minute, playing alongside these guys. But if he's going to see 36 minutes again, I do have interest in Jeremy Grant for 4,700. Millsap is a better point per minute player, so I think I do give the edge to Millsap, especially if they're going to continue to give Millsap, around 35 minutes as well. And then we have a guy like Maxi Kleber, who I actually like quite a bit today. 4,200 on DraftKings, kind of priced up a little bit, but he's been getting big minutes in this series. Whether Porzingis plays or not, Maxi's going to get probably 33 to 35 minutes, maybe more. The production's been inconsistent, that's for sure. 11 DraftKings points in Game 1. Then in Game 2, 23 DK points, 11 DK points in Game 3, and then 25 last game. He definitely saw a boost last game with Porzingis out. We'll have to keep an update, or obviously we'll have to keep an eye on Porzingis' status, stay up to date with that. If Porzingis winds up out, then Maxi is going to be probably my favorite value on the slate. If Porzingis plays, I still have interest in him at 4,200. I still think Maxi is appealing. I like him on DK now as a value. I think even if Porzingis plays, don't get scared off of Maxi. You can still leave him in your lineups. I do like him a lot on Yahoo as well. If you look at the power forward position, it is pretty bad over here. You got Marcus Morris for $20 as the most expensive power forward. Then you got Jeremy Grant for $18, Dorian Finney-Smith for $15. Paul Millsap's only $13 on Yahoo, so I think that looks very appealing. If we're going to get 35 minutes from Paul Millsap, I think at $13 he looks like a great play. And then you do have Maxi Kleber coming in at minimum salary $10. So it's very close between Millsap or Kleber. Since we already went with Luka and Leonard, I want to probably try and save you guys as much salary as you can. So I'm going to plug in Maxi for now, but if you want to go with Millsap for 13 for $3 more, I don't mind that at all. I think Millsap definitely gives you more upside than Kleber. But, if Porzingis winds up out, then Kleber does get a boost there and would be a guy that I'd want to have in a good amount of my lineups. But like I said, even if Porzingis plays, still expect Maxi to get over 30 minutes. He's still going to start. So he's definitely a value that I do like at the power forward position. But I think we covered power forward. I don't think there's any guys under 4K that I think are viable. So moving on to center. Center is a position where we don't have a ton of value here. You're probably going to have to try and pay up. If you're not paying up, then you're probably going to someone like Zubac, who we'll talk about in a second. But looking at your pay up options, you got Jokic for 9,400, Porzingis for 9,100, and then Gobert for 7,600. So looking at these three guys, I think if I'm going to pay up at the top, Jokic is probably my favorite option at 9,400. Porzingis is definitely risky to put in your lineups because if we get news, after the 6:30 game that Porzingis is going to be out, I don't really know who you're going to swap to. Maybe you could, I guess if you put Porzingis in your util, you could swap to Paul George. But if Porzingis is in your center spot and he gets ruled out, after 6:30, after lock, your only viable swap off of Porzingis is going to be Zubac. So maybe, I guess you could play Porzingis and, I don't know, maybe, I'm trying to do the math in my head, a 5K guy at point guard or something. Let's see if I could figure out somebody you could play here. So maybe, let's see. Maybe you could play Luka, or maybe you could play at small forward. You could have Marcus Morris in there, and then you have Porzingis as your center. And then if Porzingis gets ruled out, you could definitely swap off of Porzingis, downgrade him to Zubac, and then upgrade from Morris to Luka. I'm not sure exactly if that would work. Just doing the math in my head, that's a $4,400 difference from Morris to Luka. Let's see how much of a difference it is from Zubac to Porzingis, just doing the math real quick. So yeah, you would have enough salary. So that's something you could do. You could put Marcus Morris at small forward. You could put, Porzingis at center. If you have those two guys in your lineup and then Porzingis gets ruled out, then you could just take Porzingis out, downgrade him to Zubac, and then upgrade from Marcus Morris to Luka. I think that is a viable strategy that you can do. I don't think plugging Porzingis in your lineup is a bad way to go. He should be very low owned, especially if we don't get news on him till after lock. He's going to come in very low owned. But I think I still give the edge to Jokic. Jokic is a guy that I always have interest in. Just such a productive player on a point-per-minute basis. Going to play big minutes. We know that Jokic has triple-double upside. He can contribute in all categories. I know we really haven't gotten that yet. Jeez, I can't talk. We haven't gotten that huge Jokic game yet. That 60, 70-point game, that massive triple-double. But he's got that kind of upside in him. For 9,400, he is a slightly better point-per-minute player than Porzingis, so I think I do give the edge to Jokic over Porzingis. Rudy Gobert is usually not someone I'm too high on, but on this short slate, if you're not paying up to the top, Gobert is obviously the next best option. If you want to plug him in there, I have no problems with Gobert. But if you're not paying up for one of those three guys, and I think your next best play is probably Zubac. You do have Harrell for 4,100, but Harrell's just not getting any minutes right now, not being very productive as well. He's really hard to trust, even on a 2-game slate. I don't think I can go to Montrezl Harrell today. So if I'm going to go cheap at center, Zubac's the guy that I like most at 4,300. Last 2 games, 30 minutes, 22 minutes. Zubac's the guy that's very productive on a point per minute basis. Really only needs about 22 to 24 minutes to pay off the salary. He can go out there and get you a double-double in 20 minutes. He's definitely done it before. It seems like they don't want to play Montrezl Harrell right now, so Zubac's minutes should be pretty secure. Should be secure for at least about 20 if I had to guess. And we just really have no other value plays at center, so I think if you want to go with Zubac, he is definitely a viable, cheap option at the center position. If I can, though, it might be tough. It's going to be pretty tough to get Luka, Kawhi, and like Jokic in your lineup. I don't think you're going to be able to do that. Let's see if you plug in Jokic here. Like, you're only left with 38.50 remaining per player. So, you would probably have to play a guy like Shamet, and then you'd have 4,100 left, so you'd have to play someone like, I don't want to play Harrell. So, really, there's, nobody down there you could play. So, you might have to probably go with Gobert. I don't think you're going to be able to get Luka, Kawhi, and Jokic. You probably have to play Gobert. That leaves you 47.50. Then you have some salary to work with. You could probably, make that work. But yeah, guys, I think that's it for center. Obviously, if we get news that Porzingis is out, someone like Boban would become appealing. But even last game with Porzingis out, Boban still only played 16 minutes. He's most likely not going to start here. It's hard to trust him coming off the bench. You just never know how many minutes Boban's going to play, especially when he comes off the bench. My best guess is Porzingis sits again. Boban probably plays about 15 minutes off the bench. Sure, he could go out there and crush in 15 minutes, but I doubt I really go to Boban today. If I'm going cheap at center, I think Zubac's the guy that I like most for 4,300. But yeah, guys, I think we broke it all down for this 2-game slate. I know I talked for a while, but I wanted to try and give you guys as much information, as much analysis as possible. Really, just touch on everything that I could. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Hopefully you did find it useful. If you enjoyed, just hit that like button before you get out of here, guys. I do appreciate all the likes. Hit the subscribe button as well. If you have not subscribed yet, definitely hit the subscribe button. Click the notification bell as well, so that way you do get notified every time I upload. And if you have not yet, if you want to check out my Patreon exclusive content, that is linked down below in the description. If you really enjoy these videos on YouTube and you want to get more content from me, like I said, I post stuff daily on Patreon. Articles Monday through Friday. I give updated core plays on Patreon every single day for both NBA and MLB. So definitely check out the Patreon link down below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I really do appreciate you watching, and we'll see you in the next one, guys. Peace.